The auction of despair, the metal chains clinked against the cold stone floor as Zara held her infant son closer to her chest. The auction block stretched before them like a stage of nightmares, illuminated by harsh spotlights that made every scar and bruise visible to the hungry crowd. Her violet skin had lost its natural shimmer from weeks of poor treatment, and her once proud silver hair hung in tangled strands around her shoulders. Little Keto whimpered softly against her neck, his tiny blue eyes reflecting the cruel lights above. At only 6 months old, he didn't understand why his mother's heart raced with terror, why her hands shook as she tried to shield him from the leering faces in the crowd. Lot number 47. The auctioneer's voice boomed across the marketplace, his words cutting through the humid air like a blade. Alien female, approximately 25 cycles old, with offspring. Suitable for domestic work, though the child may prove problematic? Laughter rippled through the assembled buyers. Most were wealthy merchants from various worlds, their eyes calculating the potential profit from each purchase. Some whispered among themselves, pointing at Zara's unusual markings. The silver patterns that traced along her arms marked her as one of the Kalani people, a race known for their telepathic abilities. The bidding starts at 50 credits, the auctioneer continued, raising his staff. Do I hear 54 of this pair? Silence stretched like a void. Zara's breath caught in her throat as she scanned the crowd, searching for any sign of interest. But face after face turned away in disgust or boredom. Her people were considered dangerous by many species. Their mental abilities made them unpredictable slaves. 30 credits, then? The auctioneer's voice carried a note of frustration. Surely someone can use household help. More silence. Zara felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had promised herself she would be strong for Keto, no matter what happened to them. Standing near the back of the crowd, Captain Marcus Kane adjusted his worn leather jacket and watched the scene unfold with growing anger. His weathered face, marked by years of space travel and hard decisions, remained carefully neutral, but his green eyes blazed with fury at the casual cruelty he witnessed. Marcus had come to this godforsaken trading post to resupply his ship, not to attend a slave auction. But something about the young mother's dignified silence in the face of such humiliation struck him like a physical blow. She reminded him of another woman, long dead, who had faced impossible odds with the same quiet courage. 10 credits, the auctioneer called desperately. Surely 10 credits for 2 workers? The crowd began to disperse. Some buyers moved toward other lots, others headed for the exit, their interest clearly elsewhere. Zara felt her knees weaken as she realized what was happening. Unsold slaves faced a fate worse than servitude. They were often disposed of as unwanted cargo. 5 credits. The auctioneer's voice cracked slightly. Anyone? 5 credits for the pair? Keto began to cry harder, sensing his mother's distress through their natural psychic bond. Zara rocked him gently, humming a soft Kalani lullaby that her own mother had sung to her years ago in the green valleys of her homeworld. That's when Marcus stepped forward. I'll take them. His voice rang out clear and strong across the way. Nearly empty auction house. Every head turned toward him in shock. The auctioneer blinked rapidly, clearly surprised that anyone, especially a human, would show interest in the unwanted pair. Did you say you'll take them? The auctioneer asked, his voice dripping with disbelief. Both of them, Marcus confirmed, pulling out a credit chip. For the asking price. Zara's violet eyes widened as she stared at the human, who had just purchased her life and her son's future. She had heard stories about humans. Some called them savage. Others claimed they were surprisingly compassionate. Looking at this man with his calm demeanor and steady gaze, she couldn't tell which reputation was true. The transaction completed quickly after that. Within minutes, Zara found herself walking beside Marcus through the crowded streets of the trading station. Kato still cradled in her arms. The chains around her wrists had been removed, though she still wore the simple slave clothing provided by her previous captors. "Where are you taking us?" she asked quietly, her accented voice barely audible above the noise of the busy marketplace. Marcus glanced down at her, noting how she instinctively protected her child with every step. Somewhere safe, he replied simply. My ship isn't far. As they walked through the maze of vendors and travelers, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just taken an unexpected turn. For better or worse, she and Cato were now bound to this mysterious human who had seen value where others saw only burden. The journey to safety, the Starward Hope, wasn't the largest vessel docked at the trading station, but it was well maintained and clearly built for long-distance travel. As Marcus led Zara and Cato up the boarding ramp, she marveled at the clean corridors and the hum of well-tuned engines that vibrated through the deck plates. This is your cabin, Marcus said, gesturing to a small but comfortable room near the ship's medical bay. It has its own refresher and climate controls. You can adjust the atmosphere to whatever you and your son need. Zara stepped inside, her bare feet silent on the soft flooring. The room contained a proper bed, not the metal shelf she had grown accustomed to, along with storage compartments and a small seating area. Most importantly, there was a charging station for the portable life support unit that Cato would need during their journey. Why are you being kind to us? She asked, turning to face Marcus as he stood in the doorway. What do you want in return? Marcus studied her face, noting the wariness in her luminous eyes. Nothing, he said finally. You and your child were in danger. Now you're not. That's enough. She didn't believe him, couldn't allow herself to believe him. In her experience, kindness always came with a price. Humans don't buy slaves just to free them, she said, adjusting Cato's position as he dozed against her shoulder. This one does, Marcus replied with a slight smile. Get some rest. We'll be departing within the hour. As the door slid shut behind him, Zara sank onto the edge of the bed and allowed herself to truly look around the space. It was larger than anywhere she had lived in the past 2 years. Tears finally came then, silent and grateful, as she held her son and felt the ship's engines come to life beneath them. Over the following days, Marcus proved true to his word. He brought them meals, real food, not the synthetic paste they had survived on, and checked on Cato's health regularly. The infant was malnourished, but responding well to proper care and nutrition. He's beautiful, Marcus commented one evening as he watched Zara feed her son. They sat in the ship's small common area, stars streaming past the viewports in brilliant streaks of light. He looks like his father, Zara said softly, then immediately regretted mentioning Cato's parentage. She had never spoken of her mate to anyone since his death. Was he Kalani too? Marcus asked gently, settling into the chair across from her. No, Zara whispered. Human, actually. We met when I was working as a translator for the diplomatic corps on station 7. Her voice grew distant as she remembered. When the war started, mixed families became targets. They killed him first, then took Cato and me. Marcus felt anger burn in his chest at her matter-of-fact recitation of such horrible events. I'm sorry, he said, meaning it completely. Why did you really buy us? Zara asked again, meeting his eyes. Please tell me the truth. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching the way she held her son with such protective tenderness. My wife and daughter were killed in a pirate raid 5 years ago, he said finally. I couldn't save them. Maybe I can't bring them back, but I can save someone else's family. The honesty in his voice made Zara's chest tighten with unexpected emotion. She had seen so much cruelty that she had forgotten compassion could exist without ulterior motives. I'm sorry for your loss, she said quietly. We're both survivors, Marcus replied. That makes us strong. As the days passed, their conversations grew longer and more personal. Marcus taught Zara to use the ship's systems, showing her how to navigate the star charts and operate the communication array. She taught him basic Kalani meditation techniques that helped calm his recurring nightmares. One evening, as they sat watching the swirling colors of a nebula through the observation deck's massive windows, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Cato slept contentedly in her arms, his small hand wrapped around her finger. Marcus, she said softly, thank you for everything. He turned to look at her, struck by how the nebula's light painted her violet skin in shades of rose and gold. You don't need to thank me, Zara. You and Cato. You've given me something to fight for again. The admission hung between them like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. But as their eyes met in the starlight, both felt the first stirrings of something deeper than gratitude or loneliness, something that might, given time and trust, grow into love. Healing and understanding 3 weeks into their journey. Zara had transformed from a frightened refugee into a valued member of the Starward Hope's small crew. Her natural intelligence and quick grasp of ship operations impressed Marcus. While her Kalani abilities proved useful in detecting spatial anomalies and navigation hazards, the sensors are picking up unusual energy readings in Sector 7, Zara reported from the navigation console. Her fingers dancing across the holographic displays. It feels ... chaotic. Dangerous. Marcus nodded, trusting her psychic impressions completely. They had learned to work together with an efficiency that surprised them both. Plot a course around it. We're not in any hurry. As Zara adjusted their trajectory, Marcus watched her with growing admiration. The hollow-cheeked, terrified woman from the auction had filled out with proper nutrition, and her silver hair now shone with its natural luster. More importantly, the haunted look in her violet eyes had been replaced by something brighter hope. Cato had thrived during their journey as well. The infant now gurgled happily during his waking hours and had grown strong enough to sit, supported in Marcus's arms while Zara worked. The sight of the tough space captain gently bouncing a blue-eyed baby had become a common one aboard the ship. He likes you, Zara observed one evening, as Marcus fed Cato his bottle. He's never been comfortable with strangers before. Maybe he knows I'd never hurt him, Marcus replied, smiling as Cato's tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb. Or maybe he just recognizes a fellow troublemaker. Zara laughed, a sound Marcus had grown to treasure. You think he'll be trouble? With a mother as brave as you and a father who is willing to love across species lines? Definitely trouble, Marcus said with mock seriousness. The good kind, though, their easy banter, was interrupted by an urgent beeping from the communication array. Marcus carefully handed Cato back to Zara before answering the incoming message. Marcus, thank God you're alive, came a familiar voice through the speakers. It was Sarah Reynolds, Marcus's longtime friend and contact in the Colonial Administration. We've been tracking raider activity in your sector. Are you safe? We're fine, Sarah, Marcus replied. About 2 days out from New Haven Colony. Any word on the refugee status applications I sent? Approved across the board? Sarah's voice carried obvious relief. Zara and Cato will have full citizenship rights upon arrival. I've also arranged temporary housing in the residential district. Marcus felt Zara's hand touch his shoulder as she moved to stand beside him. Thank you, Sarah, Zara said softly. I know Marcus asked you to take risks for strangers. Any friend of Marcus's is family to us, Sarah replied warmly. Besides, the colony needs people with your skills. Our communications specialists have been asking for Kalani translation services for months. After ending the call, Marcus and Zara stood in comfortable silence, both aware that their journey together was nearing its end. The thought left them both feeling unexpectedly hollow. You'll have a good life on New Haven, Marcus said finally. Sarah's people will take care of you and Cato. What about you? Zara asked, turning to face him. Will you stay? Marcus hesitated. He had planned to resupply and continue his trading routes, as he had for the past 5 years since losing his family. But the thought of leaving Zara and Cato felt like tearing out part of his heart. I don't know, he admitted. My life has been about moving from place to place, never staying long enough to care too much. Zara stepped closer, Cato drowsing peacefully in her arms. And now I think about what it would be like to have a real home again, Marcus said quietly. With people who matter to me. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Zara felt her pulse quicken as she realized they were approaching territory neither had dared acknowledge before. Marcus, she whispered, I need you to know something. These past weeks with you, they've been the happiest I've been since before the war. You've given me back my life, my hope. I don't want this to end, Zara, ... Marcus began. But she placed a gentle finger against his lips. I know this is complicated, she continued, I know we come from different worlds, different species. But what I feel for you is real. What we've built together is real. Marcus covered her hand with his own, pressing it against his cheek. I feel it too, he said roughly. God help me, I think I'm falling in love with you. The admission broke down the last walls between them. As Cato slept peacefully in Zara's arms, Marcus leaned down and brushed his lips against hers in a kiss that tasted of starlight and infinite possibilities. Love in the Stars' New Haven colony spread across rolling green hills beneath a sky painted with 3 moons, their light casting everything in ethereal silver and blue. As the starward hope settled onto the landing pad, Zara pressed her face to the viewport and marveled at the sight of her new home. It's beautiful, she breathed, holding Keto up so he could see the landscape too. The infant babbled excitedly, his blue eyes wide with wonder at the new sights. Marcus stood behind them, his hands resting gently on Zara's shoulders. Sarah's arranged a house on the hillside overlooking the main settlement, he said. You'll have privacy, but still be close enough to the community centers for work and socializing. The past 24 hours had changed everything between them. Since their confession and first kiss, they had talked through the night about their feelings, their fears, and their hopes for the future. Marcus had made a decision that still left him slightly breathless with its implications. Marcus, Zara said softly, turning in his embrace, are you certain about this? Giving up your trading routes, settling down. It's a big change. The biggest, he agreed, touching his forehead to hers. But I've spent 5 years running from the possibility of loving someone again. I don't want to run anymore, especially not from you and Keto. Their tender moment was interrupted by the ship's communication system announcing their official arrival at New Haven Colony. Within minutes, they were walking down the boarding ramp into the warm afternoon air. Sarah Reynolds waited for them at the bottom of the ramp, a warm smile on her weathered face. She was a woman in her 50s with graying hair and the kind of competent manner that came from years of managing a frontier colony. Zara, Sarah said, extending her hand in greeting. Welcome to New Haven. We're honored to have you join our community. Thank you for everything, Zara replied, shifting Keto to one arm so she could shake Sarah's hand. Marcus told me how much you've done to help us. Nonsense, Sarah waved off the gratitude. Marcus has saved more lives than he'll ever admit. It's about time someone did something nice for him. She winked at Marcus, who had the grace to look embarrassed. The house Sarah had arranged was perfecta. Modest dwelling with large windows that overlooked the colony's main valley. It had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen equipped for various species' dietary needs, and most importantly, a nursery that had been prepared with everything Cato could need. The communication center is a 10-minute walk down the hill, Sarah explained as they toured the house. And the school has excellent childcare facilities when you're ready to return to work. That evening, as the 3 moons rose over the valley, Marcus and Zara sat on the house's small porch, watching Keto play with a collection of colorful toys that the colony's children had donated. The infant's delighted laughter filled the air as he discovered each new texture and shape. He's going to love growing up here, Zara said, leaning against Marcus's shoulder. With other children to play with, clean air to breathe, no fear, ... And to parents who love him completely, Marcus added. Wrapping his arm around her, Zara looked up at him, her violet eyes reflecting the moonlight. To parents. If you'll have me, Marcus said seriously. I know I'm not Keto's biological father, but I love him as if he were my own. And I love you, Zara. Completely, desperately, forever. Tears sparkled in Zara's eyes as she turned to face him fully. I love you too, Marcus Kane. With everything I am. Their second kiss was deeper than the first, filled with passion and promise and the sweet certainty of a future built together. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard and smiling like teenagers. Marry me, Marcus whispered against her lips. Not because you feel obligated, not because I saved you, but because you want to build a life with me. Because you choose me. Yes. Zara breathed without hesitation. Yes to everything. To marriage, to family, to forever. As if sensing the importance of the moment, Cato looked up from his toys and clapped his hands, gurgling happily at his mother and the man who would become his father. The 3 moons above seemed to shine brighter, blessing the small family that had found each other across the vastness of space. Later that night, as they tucked Cato into his new crib, Zara and Marcus held each other close and planned their future. They would have a small ceremony in the colony's gardens, with Sarah officiating and the entire community celebrating. They would work together to help other refugees find safety in new homes. And they would raise Cato to be proud of his mixed heritage, the love that had brought his family together. I never thought I'd be this happy again. Marcus whispered in the darkness. Neither did I, Zara replied, her hand finding his. But maybe that's what makes it so precious. A new beginning 1 year later. The gardens of New Haven Colony bloomed with flowers from a dozen different worlds as the community gathered to celebrate Marcus and Zara's wedding. The ceremony was simple, but beautiful. With Sarah officiating under an arch woven from native vines and earth roses, Zara wore a flowing dress of pale blue that complemented her violet skin, while Marcus had chosen traditional human formal wear in deep green. But the real star of the ceremony was 18-month-old Cato, who toddled between the bride and groom with a small bouquet clutched in his chubby fists. Marcus, Cain, Sarah said with a warm smile. Do you take Zara to be your wife, to love and cherish through whatever adventures life may bring? I do, Marcus replied, his voice steady and sure as he looked into Zara's eyes. I promise to love you and Cato as my own family, to support your dreams, and to never let fear keep us apart again. Zara Cain, Sarah continued. Do you take Marcus to be your husband, to love and cherish through whatever adventures life may bring? I do, Zara said, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. I promise to love you with all my heart, to stand beside you in whatever challenges we face, and to build a future worthy of the love we've found. As they exchanged rings, simple bands crafted by the colony's metalsmith, the crowd erupted in cheers. Cato, startled by the noise, ran to Marcus, who scooped him up and spun him around, making the toddler shriek with delight. The reception that followed was a true community celebration. Tables laden with foods from various worlds filled the common area, while musicians played melodies that blended human, Kalani, and a dozen other cultural traditions. Children ran between the adults, playing games that transcended species barriers. You've done something wonderful here, remarked Alina Vasquez, the colony's head counselor, as she watched Marcus and Zara dance to a gentle Kalani love song. Not just finding happiness yourselves, but inspiring others to open their hearts to refugees. She was right. In the year since Zara and Cato's arrival, the colony had welcomed 15 more refugee families, sponsored by community members who had been moved by Marcus and Zara's story. What had started as one man's compassionate act had grown into a movement of hope and acceptance. Papa dance, Cato demanded, tugging on Marcus's jacket as the song ended. The little boy had started calling Marcus Papa 6 months ago, and it never failed to make the tough space captain's eyes mist with emotion. Of course, little man, Marcus said, lifting Cato into his arms and beginning an elaborate waltz that made the toddler giggle with glee. Zara watched them with a heart so full of love she thought it might burst. You're thinking loud thoughts? Teased Laura Chen, Zara's colleague from the communications center and one of her closest friends on the colony. Care to share? Just marveling at how much can change in a year, Zara replied. This time last year, I thought Cato and I would die on that auction block. Now look at us. Now you're planning to expand your family even more, Lara said with a knowing smile. Nodding toward the small group of newly arrived refugees that Marcus and Zara had agreed to sponsor, it was true. Their happiness had made them want to share their good fortune. They had volunteered to mentor new refugee families, helping them navigate the practical and emotional challenges of starting over in a new world. Their home had become a gathering place for mixed-species families and anyone who needed a reminder that love could transcend any barrier. As the evening wound down and the 3 moons rose over the valley, Marcus and Zara found themselves alone on their porch once again, with Cato sleeping peacefully in Marcus's arms. Any regrets? Marcus asked softly, thinking of the simple life they might have had without the complications of refugee work and community leadership. None, Zara replied firmly. Except maybe that we can't save everyone who needs saving. We'll keep trying, though, Marcus said with a smile. One family at a time. One family at a time, Zara agreed. Leaning against her husband's shoulder and watching the stars wheel overhead in the distance, the lights of New Haven Colony twinkled like earthbound stars, each one representing lives rebuilt and dreams renewed. Somewhere among those lights, refugee families were tucking their children into safe beds for the first time in years. Just as Zara had done with Quito not so long ago, and in the quiet peace of their porch. With their sons sleeping between them and the vast universe spread out above, Marcus and Zara Kane knew that they had found something infinitely precious, a love strong enough to build worlds upon, and a family that had chosen each other across every possible divide.